Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the podcast Nothing Millennial About Us. The topic for today is expensive education really worth it, and how does your career growth and prospects affected by going for higher education studies, specifically such as an MBA. And today I'm joined by my esteemed friend Nakul Kapoor, and I'm your host Jasraj Soki. So let's begin. So in India, there's a lot of trend of getting an MBA straight out of college. It is considered almost like a prestigious degree that you need to have on your resume, and many people feel that if you don't complete an MBA, your future career will never probably grow as fast as you want it. And there's a lot of pressure from parents also to get higher education, because in India, of course, as we know, there's a lot of competition and people are always sort of finding ways to distinguish themselves. And given that most people do complete a degree such as engineering or a honors degree, and after that MBA is sort of the only option left to in terms of education for most people, and so they just jump straight into it without really giving it a thought whether they actually need it or not. And that way, when you're really young, you might think that it's a really good option, but as you grow, and from our own personal experiences, we have felt that there is many other alternatives to such a degree, and probably you should explore your options more. Just to give context, both me and Nakul, we did our MBA in 2010 from IMI New Delhi. And at that time, it was still an affordable degree. But today, with most MBA colleges charging from like 15 to 30 lakhs. So you really have to sort of think about whether is MBA sort of really worth it.
So hi everyone, I think it's a fairly descriptive introduction to what we are trying to discuss today. I think if you put it in one line, I think expensive education is basically just a prison. You struggle hard to first get into a B school, or we'll primarily restrict it to B school because that's what we've done, and we can talk much more about it. You struggle hard first to get into a B school, by studying for CAT, paying for tuitions, and then you finally get into college. I think reality hits hard when you see the fee structure and compare it to the opportunity cost, and also once you graduate, what will be your placement like, and also what will be your starting salary like. So there are a number of variables that we'll discuss here. First of which is ROI.
So I feel that there's also a problem is that most MBA colleges sort of inflate their placement numbers and all. And when you are really, before you get into that college, you might have some really good prospects, that thoughts that, okay, I'll probably graduate with this much amount of salary in hand and all, and I'll be able to easily pay off my debts. So it seems like a risk that's worth taking. But when you really sort of come out of your college, and if you're lucky enough to get a good placement, then probably paying off that debt is easier, because students' loans, as you know, can have a very high interest rate. And many people end up struggling because of that. Then they're sort of stuck into that zone itself, because their entire sort of month then keeps revolving over the fact that they'll get this much salary, paycheck at the end of the month, and this much will go into straight paying off their student debt. And they'll be stuck for 4 to 5 years probably just paying off that debt. And nothing else is on their minds then, and it's just about that I have to, instead of like being in a good job that you want to be, it's just like your thought is more about like you want to be in that job just to pay off that debt. And once you paid out your debt, then you can start thinking about doing something else, which is, I guess, not really the right way to go about at a young age.
So, taking some broad numbers, they are not sacrosanct, so don't hold it against us. But, if you are paying an MBA fees of, say, 20 lakhs, and you just completed your graduation, and your starting salary could be, say, around 5 lakhs, you'll not only lose 2 years of your salary, which maybe, say, let's assume the worst case scenario, you make 5 lakhs, and in 2 years you make 10 lakhs. So the bigger loss is that 10 lakhs of salary and say 2 years of work ex which will be a hardcore good experience, and another 20 lakh of fees, so which is another 30 lakh of loss technically, and not. I don't basically see it as an experience. A lot of people might want to counter that. I'm myself, I did my MBA right after graduation without having much thought of why I want to do an MBA. Even though your coaching institutes may train you for a good answer on that, but I don't know. We are all directionless. Not all, maybe most of us are directionless when we are 20. And MBA seems like a good step to complete your education and then figure out what you want to do, which is, I think, a fairly stupid strategy. Now that I can look back, say 10 years, and I understand why did I do it and what's the trigger. So I realized it was mainly peer pressure and family pushing me, saying that this is what you should do and stuff like that. And I somehow convinced my brain that this is the right thing to do. And I remember slogging my ass off for 6-8 months to first clear CAT and then get into IMI or any other B school that I might have got into. So, but we've all realized with our experience today that it's probably not the best strategy. Some of you might genuinely want to do that, and that makes sense. But on a larger picture, the ROI, I don't think it justifies of what your potential is. So when you do an MBA, you just Raj just mentioned that you have to first clear out your debt, which is another stress for anybody for that matter. And if it takes say 5-6 years for you to clear off that debt, you're already 30 by the time you realize that you've done what you probably didn't want to do, or you were not prepared for do, or you were not meant for it. While you may also realize that I was meant for it, maybe I did it too early. Like we went to IMI at 98-99 percentile. We could have gone to say some of the IM top B schools maybe a year or 2 year thereafter. We don't know, but nevertheless, I think it's a very debatable topic, and we would just like to share some of our experiences here.
And that's really true, because in my case also I did my engineering from VIT, and after that because at that time the IT industry was doing really well, so most engineers would know that at that time the only placement that you could get for like an assured way was going into an IT company, and I didn't want to do that, so I just was finding some alternative. And for me the easiest was of course doing an MBA, so I just did an MBA for sort of avoiding going into the IT industry. And at that time there was a lot of sort of glamour associated with MBA, that you get high paying jobs, you go into big MNCs. So that's why I did an MBA. And after that when you graduate, I got a job in a consulting, which again sounds glamorous. So I was just following sort of the popular path, the path that people wanted me to do, and it felt right in that sense, because like everyone around you is happy, and maybe your parents are proud that you are doing all these things. But when you start doing your job after like 2 or 3 years, not what you wanted, then it becomes a real problem, because then you're just sort of fulfilling other people's expectations and not doing what you want to do. And that also brings another problem, is the comfort zone you get is your salary, because if you end up in a good decent salary, then you sort of don't want to get away from it, because at the end of the month when your salary gets credited, sort of you don't want to let go of that. And it's you might even not like your job, but you start sort of liking your salary, and that you get into expensive hobbies, you want to buy that, you want to go on a trip, and you sort of start just justifying that I have a high salary, so I also want to do these things that other people around me are doing, even though you're sort of not doing what you want, but you're doing what other people expect you to do. And that salary, as Nakul already said, is now just a prison for you, because you don't want to go away from it, and every month, at the end of every month, you just want that salary to be credited in your account. Because of that, your risk-taking abilities really go down. People don't want to. Most people then don't want to switch their jobs or take a risk in something like a startup, or probably change the industry in completely. And because when you don't want to take risks, then 10 or 20 years down the line, then your career might not end up at the same position that you wanted it to be.
I think the biggest myth that we have with MBA or maybe any other master's program, specifically the Indian education system, is that an MBA guarantees you a job, and we all follow the mean structure of salary placements when it comes to campus offers. I think that's the most stupid way our education system has trained us, because we've completely ignored the capability of an individual, what creativity they bring to table or etc. And the only thing everybody is running behind is campus placements. We've been coached differently, that our professors tell us that you should think for 5-year 10-year horizon, and you should figure out what you want to do with your life, etc. But that comes down to the same point, saying that everybody has taken some form of loan, like most of us, and then the point is, how do we get a job to just first repay it? So suddenly that 2-year MBA becomes a 6-year liability, because after 2 years you might take 4-5 years to repay that debt. And suddenly by the time you realize you're 20 to 30 years of your age, basically 10 years of your life has gone in first taking an education that probably you didn't want to, and second paying off a loan to just satisfy that need of an MBA degree. So the golden years of your life are just gone in not doing anything productive, and being just another manpower in the force, and which really doesn't add any value, which is what I can say today.
Yeah, and if you look at both our own cases also, Nakul did a job for 2 years, then he quit that job to start his own company, and that I think was a pretty happy phase for you. I think at least satisfying in a way. And same with me, I worked for 6 years, and I in a single company, and I was just there because I had to. It's like people expect that you need to have a job, and they're like, it's the only surety in your life. So I just went to the office every day at 9 and came back and just did that like a routine for 6 years, because I really didn't have any alternative, because again I was sort of that trapped into the salary thing. And finally I was so sort of bored out of my job and what I was doing with my life that I just quit, and I took up my own hobby of photography, which I enjoyed for some time, but I never took it seriously. And now I'm taking that seriously. So, and now it becomes, it feels so odd that you're not getting that salary at the end of the month. But it's sort of very satisfying also that you are doing your own thing, what you wanted to do. And right now, the financial prospects are not that high, but I believe that if I sort of stay in this game for enough time, the growth will probably come, and that I might even sort of exceed what my growth would have been staying in that job forever and getting that same 10-15% hike every year, and you can never sort of break that barrier. But if you have your own thing, probably there is no limit to your growth. It can be 100%, it can be 200%. It's all up to you how much effort you are sort of ready to put into that. And that is something that I think is very powerful, and really I feel like every month that my business is now growing, it's growing much faster than what any job would have ever done for me.
So rightly said. I think we don't want to sound here two frustrated souls who did MBA just for the sake of it and then realized later. The point we are trying to make here is that one should do an MBA when it's actually required for in the career and for the growth, and not just for the sake of it. The idea here is that if probably you work for a couple of years before taking an MBA, it may help you better. Not everybody is cut for a startup or venturing out alone. It's something that easier said than done, and we've already recorded a podcast about how entrepreneurs are different from wantrepreneurs. So you should definitely hear that, listen to that as well. But the idea is here that you should definitely evaluate your ROI of pursuing an MBA degree, or evaluate your opportunities, options. Maybe take a break after graduation for some time to explore what you want to do. I think that will help your decision better, irrespective. Even though you may end up going for an MBA degree and you'll still have a loan or something, but at least you'll be mentally prepared about why are you doing this. Shouldn't be the case because that everybody is following a certain path, that we also want to have the same path. And people usually realize that when they are in the late 20s or early 30s, although it's never too late, but yeah, it gets slightly late, because I think the best years of your life, when you can put 200% of your energy, your time, is in your mid 20s and late 20s. So those formative and golden years of your life should not be wasted in just paying off debt.
Yeah, definitely, because in my own work, whenever I encounter like very successful photographers, they are not the people who started in their late 20s. They are probably people who started doing this thing right out of college, and some I know are like literally kids. They just came out of school 2 years ago, and still they are so passionate about their creative side that they are doing college on one side, and they are taking up photography assignments on the other. And I'm really amazed that those people take risks so much at such a early age. But then again, I mean, those people also make it far. I mean, and if you're sort of good at what you really want to do and your passion, then there is no sort of curtailing your growth. It can go by leaps and bounds. Besides our two examples, if you really look at people who are famous and who have made it big, they all have such stories. There are very few people you might know would have followed that same path of graduation and MBA, and they sort of just get into that structure of getting a promotion every 2 years or 3 years, and they're just sort of satisfied with that. And you sort of get trapped into that thing that my own life is defined by what a company is telling me I'm worth. You just want to sort of fulfill those requirements and fulfill their needs. Your company's needs, basically.
I think another point that I would want to put across is we undervalue what is the level of stress that somebody goes through in all of this. Imagine going through work every day when you don't want to go to work, and you have to just follow the same thing because you have to pay off your loan or your debt, or you have some financial commitments, etc. It just hits your brain so hard that you entirely lose your inner confidence of doing something else and venturing out of your comfort space. The typical jobs that anybody could get out of an MBA school is like in a sales and marketing role in an FMCG company, or telecom, or now e-commerce, or in finance related to banking or consulting, etc. But the important point here is to ask, do you really want to do that? Because I think out of the 120 people who joined IMI in 2010, we would have been talking on and off to about 50% of them, and none of them have sound really satisfied with what they're doing. While everybody believes that they want to do something else, nobody knows that answer. It's just that in those best years of your life, you've just lost it somewhere within you. Now you're clueless. So people just maintain that status quo and keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's like every year that you grow older, your risk taking appetite just sort of keeps going down and down. When you are young, you are ready to take risks, and just an example of people who had probably taken part in the IIT entrance exam, that was still a risk-taking ability. People go to Kota for 2 years to sort of get into the dream college. That is a risk that they take. That risk is something you will never take when you're like 30. You won't take 1 year of your life probably to just apply for some MBA in college or anything, because then there are so many people who sort of start getting dependent on you. So that young age is really important, that you take big steps over there and probably sort of realize what you really want to do. And yeah, when you're talking about the topic of stress, so many people feel that taking a creative leap in your life might be a bigger stress than and you might not be able to handle it. But for that I would say, yeah, definitely in the starting phase you would be a lot stressful. The big change in your life, and you probably don't have sort of anything to do for the whole day, and you're just sort of finding ways to make your venture grow, and there'll be a lot of rejections of your work, and in that sense you might feel that you have taken a wrong step. But I think that's still the first year might be really tough, but like if you are in a job and doing that and just sort of paying off your loan as we talked about, then that is a bigger stress, and it's a constant stress that never goes away. It's there every day. From it's not just the 9 to 5 thing, it's the when you come back to your home, then also you have that stress. So that stress really is like a 24/7 thing that happens, and there are a lot of there are little days to celebrate that you have, because 5 days of your 5 or 6 weekdays when you go to office, they are just gone in that sense, and you might just get one day off, and even then you have some other stress about a Monday meeting, early morning meeting, and so it might be a smaller in magnitude. That stress might be smaller, and doing something on your own might be a bigger stress in the starting, but I think it really starts paying, and when you sort of see success in your work, that is, I think, much more worth it.
Yeah, exactly. So venturing out on your own is a great opportunity and a great option, but not everyone, like I said earlier, is cut for it. The whole idea here is that before doing an MBA and taking any expensive education, whatever that may be, one should ideally evaluate the way multiple factors that will go into once you basically complete your education. So today you may decide to do any fancy degree course, but you should evaluate what will happen 5 years from now or 10 years from now when you've done 2-3 years of your education, and once you start working on it. And I think a better opportunity could be to just dirty your hand in the same space where you want to get in at a lower level, maybe, because when you start working in a certain particular space, you understand more about that business, the kind of job you're going to do. So you basically are more prepared with how things are going to shape up. Your expectations are pretty much clear. So by no way we are saying here that don't do an MBA or anything which is an expensive education. The whole idea is just evaluate your options in a better way before you take any decision.
Yeah, and especially after 2 or 3 years, you might even realize that you not even want to do that MBA at all, because I personally know people once who did 3 years in IT industry, and then he went to a journalism college. And in my own family, my sister, she did a Spanish course because she wanted to sort of work Spanish embassy and travel to Spain. So all of these sort of, and there's another person I know who's had a lot of interest in doing makeup, and now she's a pretty established makeup artist. So we are not just stressing that MBA is such a bad thing only. It's just that you have so many other things that you open up, and you sort of go through your life, and you sort of might meet people who have similar interests like you, and then you might realize, okay, that this is something I really want to do. So like MBA, of course, will always there be an option. In India, there is multiple MBA colleges. They'll always be open. They'll be ready to accept your money at any time, and so don't just rush into it. And coming to this MBA college also, people talk a lot about competition in India and how stressful and how difficult it is to get into these colleges. But in a way that you are also sort of forcing yourself into being into that competition. You are taking 6-7 months to prepare for CAT, and I see a lot of people who just complain that there is so much population in India and I have to struggle to get into a MBA college. But then again, that's only because you are entering into that competition there. If you take a step in the other side, probably you'll do something that you really want, you might not face that much competition. Lakhs of students are preparing for MBA colleges, and probably not the same number of people are going for a journalism course or a fashion designing course. So you are sort of putting in yourself forcefully into that competition, and it's not necessary for you to be there. And just as I talked about quota, all of those people are just sitting there for 2 years, and a lot of them just keep complaining that I'll never get into this. But there are many alternatives out there, and those courses might not sound that interesting or that exciting, But if you are good at it, like for a few years back, I'll just give a random example, being an RJ was considered not a good job, and people thought like it's not really a long-term growth. But now you look at RJs, they are like almost celebrities right now, and people are now lining up into colleges to get into become an RJ or a TV anchor or anything. So if you're good at it, it probably, even the most simplest of jobs can, or simplest of hobbies can become something really big. But you just have to take that leap of faith and explore that side of yours, and not tie yourself into this degree where you might not be able to explore it. When you're like in a job, it becomes really tough to take that risk also. And another point that I really want to talk about is that we have, if you like, some people don't really have a creative side, and that's okay. I mean, not everyone is born to be a painter or an artist or something, and you might be discouraged by that if I don't have that side, what should I do? But in that case also, I mean, you can still, you'll get a job probably after your undergraduate degree, and you can sort of stay in that industry and grow well over there. I mean, if you're a hard worker and you are ready to give your time to your office life and your company, then there's a lot of growth possible there. I know people who keep switching companies after 1 year, 2 years, and they get a good hike every time they switch. And those people have gone to great heights without a sort of a master's degree. And in the end, it's your skills and your the talent that you bring to the table that really matters. And people I know personally who have not done MBAs, and they are at a better position than me because they were ready to always switch jobs. They even change industries when they needed to, and they're always sort of looking out for the next big industry that where a big growth could be there. Taking the example of India, e-commerce industry has really grown. I know people in companies such as Paytm and all who really have taken a very good career choices, and they are at a really good positions right now. If you don't have a creative side, that's still okay. You don't have to do an MBA to get that sort of hike in salary or a hike in position. You can always stay at that place you are, do good at your job, and still grow at the pace that a person with an MBA probably would.
So I think we'd like to conclude this podcast by saying that expensive education is a prison. You may want to go for it, and you may do well in it, but do take a thought through decision and evaluate all your options before getting into it. This was specifically for MBA because we've gone through that phase, and current fee structure in most of the B schools is above 15-20 lakhs. So it's a lot of investment to be made in your education. While it may make sense to upskill yourself while you're working on the job, and that may not cost as much, you should still go for an MBA if you think it's for your good, career good, and it'll add value to you in the long term. Have a good life and a good work life, if that makes sense.
I think just have a good day.